What's up, guys? Today I want to be teaching you how to shuffle a deck of cards. Whether you're a magician that's been practicing magic for like 5+ years, or if you're just starting off and have never touched the card before, this is perfect. You're going to be able to learn a riffle shuffle in the hands with the bridge at the end. It's going to look sick once you've got it. We're going to start off with like an overview of the shuffle, and I'm going to go in depth and teach you how to do the shuffle, every single thing you have to know about it. Then we're going to move into a slow-mo. And finally, we're going to do troubleshooting and tips. But anyways, one last thing before we get started, please hit the like button down below. It really helps the channel out. Subscribe as well if you haven't already. Grab your cards. Let's get going. All right, so this is how the shuffle is going to look from your angle. Now, depending on what deck of cards you use, this is going to be harder and easier. You don't want a deck that's too new because the cards slide a lot depending on how new you are to this. Eventually you're going to be able to do it with a new deck, but right now I'd recommend a deck that isn't completely destroyed by your family playing cards or whatever, but isn't so new that it's just out of the box. If it's just out of the box, I'd play around with it for maybe half an hour, maybe play some card games with your family. Not too much though. You kind of want a deck that's, again, not completely destroyed, but not completely new. Now, the first step you're going to take is you're going to have to put the cards, 2 packets, evenly split into your hands, like so. The way you're going to do this, you're going to take the cards in your right hand. Depending on if you're left hand, just switch this around and do it in your left hand. It's pretty symmetrical later on, but right now, you're going to place the cards in your dominant hand. Your thumb is going to be on top. Your 2 fingers, that's middle finger and index finger at the bottom. Your pointer finger here, your pinky there. You can hold the cards pretty well. They shouldn't be falling out at this point. Now what you're going to do, you're going to want to place half of these cards in your other hand. You're going to do this by taking your thumb, taking half the cards, and kind of swivel them down. So at this point, these cards are free from all fingers except your middle finger and your index finger at the bottom. And these are going to contact your left-handed middle finger and index finger. And these are going to kind of move it up. Your thumb catches it, and then you're in the same position as you were here. Let's do that again. Cards in your right hand, middle finger, index finger at the bottom, pointer finger, pinky on the sides, thumb at the top. You're going to take your thumb, take half cards, swivel them off. Your bottom 2 fingers are going to catch them. These 2 fingers are going to push these guys up. Now your pointer finger and your pinky are going to catch them, and your thumb goes on top. So now you're in a really sturdy position, so you can move these cards around without having any of them fall apart. So now at this point, we're going to get into the actual riffle part of the shuffle. Now, a little thing to note, once you start doing this, your hands are going to cramp, it's going to hurt a bit, your hands are going to be a bit sore because your muscles aren't used to the pressure that is going to be put on them. But anyways, let's get into this. You're in this position, you're going to put the cards face down. You're going to switch your position now. You're going to take these 3 fingers and they're going to go at the bottom. So you were here, this is the bottom view, and your pinky is going to move to the bottom, and now you've got your middle finger, your index finger, and your pinky finger on both hands on the bottom of the deck. You're going to move your pointer finger about into the middle. So now you're in the position where you can bend the cards, right? You were here, your pinky moved in, your pointer finger moved on top. So now you're in this position where you can bend the cards. Now again, this is one of these things. Your thumb right here, it's going to hurt because your thumb is not used to having that much pressure on it. The purpose of the pointer finger is to make it easier to bend the cards. If you do it like this, it's a little harder. The cards might slide out. But if you've got your index fingers, or your pointer finger here, you can easily do that and make an L shape. That's the goal, to have an L on both hands. Again, you're in this position, pinky goes in, pointer finger goes on top, and now you can pull these up. Now, the more you pull these up, the better, because you've got an easier riffle. If you do it like this, the riffle is going to be a bit in chunks, I guess you could say. The more you pull it back, the easier it's going to be to release those cards individually. So again, this position, pinky, middle, index at the bottom, thumbs at the top, pointer fingers on the top. You're in the middle of the cards. You're going to make that L shape. You're going to want that L shape. And slowly what you're going to do, this is hands are going to be facing the floor like this. I'm going to show it you like this. You're slowly going to release the cards into the middle, and you should be left with this basically. So now you're in this position. You're going to move your pointer finger back down. So now you're at the point where you've got all 4 fingers at the bottom here. And your thumb is on the top. Everything is at the bottom except for your thumbs, which are on the top. It's really important to keep your thumbs on the top here, because if you let go, these cards can go out of their position. So remember, keep your thumbs on the top. Don't let anything slide out. You've got your 4 fingers each on the bottom here. And now this leaves you in the position where you can bend up. And now again, these thumbs are really important, because if you do this and let go of your thumbs, that happens. Now you don't want that. I'm going to go back into the position that I was in. Right here. Now if your thumbs hold the top, those cards ain't going anywhere. And now you're in the position where your fingers are curled in the bottom, your hands are on the top. Now you're in the position to move your hands down and slowly move away so that those cards can fall into place. So again, swivel around. You're in this position, these 2 fingers there, pointer, pinky, thumb at the top. You adjust your position into this. Your pointer finger goes on top. You can bend the cards into the L shape. Now you can shuffle, interlace them. That's going to take some practice. Eventually, at the start, they might start to move in like clumps. But remember, you can even just practice doing this. You can just practice that. And you're going to get better at it. It might look like this at the beginning. But eventually, those muscles are going to build up in your thumbs, and you're going to be able to easily do that motion. So again, you're in this position, 3 fingers at the bottom, pointer finger at the top, in the middle, thumbs are at the top. Bend the cards into an L shape, release. Your pointer finger moves to the bottom with all those other cards. Your thumbs move to the middle so that they're supporting all the cards. You can now bend. And now you can release your fingers to act as a table. And now when you move your hands slightly away, you don't need much. You need half a centimeter, a centimeter. Those cards should be released. Remember, keep your thumbs on the top here. So if you're here, keep your thumbs on the top. Keep that pressure there so that those cards don't burst out of the top and that they go down. Your fingers here act as a table so that the cards can land. And now when you move your hands away, that happens. You should be left with that. At this point, you're left clean. You can just square up the cards. And you shuffled. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to commentate over slow motion footage of the shuffle. So you can see the original grip that we've got here. My hand's repositioning it, but we've got the middle finger and the ring finger at the bottom with the pinky, pointer finger on the sides, and the thumb at the top. It's a really secure position. Cards shouldn't fall out that way. My pointer finger is a little tucked in this footage, but again, it should be on the outside of it to ensure that the cards don't fall out. So my left hand here is going to swivel the cards over like we've seen in the original performance. It's going to swivel them over. It's going to put them into the other hand. Again, the bottom fingers support it and the other two catch. Now we're repositioning it. All three fingers on the bottom here, index fingers move to curl the cards in, and the thumbs slowly release to allow the cards to interlace. Now again, we're going to reposition. All four fingers except the thumb are going to go to the sides of the deck. The thumb is going to hold the top so the cards don't fall out. The fingers are going to act as a table as the cards slide down. And we're going to separate our hands a bit to allow for the cards to fall down. That's the bridge. So that is the shuffle. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Troubleshooting now. So here are a few troubleshooting tips that might come in handy when learning the shuffle. When you're riffling the cards into this position, the cards might clump for you. So when I say that, I mean that the cards might go in like in packets. You don't want, that was a bad example, but you don't want packets. You want a nice interlace. So the way you fix this, you bend the cards more. The higher you bend the cards, you want it in an L shape. Remember that. You want an L. If you have an L, you can see that those cards, you see that shape right there? They make it very easy for you to pluck one card off at a time. When you got the cards barely pulled up, you don't really get that. I mean, at a certain point, you will be able to, but when you're learning, you want to move those up as high as you can. Don't go this high, but make an L. Make an L. That's your goal. With the L, you'll be able to easily pluck one card off at a time. Now, tip number 2. There's a chance when you're shuffling the cards and trying to interlace them, you just miss. Or the first few interlace and then the rest it doesn't work. Now what you're doing here, when you're interlacing, you're not doing it straight. The cards are on an angle in this way. You see that, right? It's kind of like a pyramid. That's what you're doing. You don't want a pyramid when you're doing this. You want straight. You want the cards to land straight. So, simply move your hands down a few degrees. If you're like this, move them down. That when you end, the cards are straight. That should fix it. Now, tip number 3. If you're having trouble riffling the cards down, if you're having trouble doing that, there's a chance that your deck might be cut in a certain way that makes it harder for it to riffle. Different decks are cut in different ways. They've got different cuts on the edge. So, try flipping the deck around so that it's face up. That might fix it. It might make it easier to riffle. Alright, last tip I've got for you here. When you're starting off learning this shuffle, you're going to want to use a deck that's slightly broken in, meaning it's not too old to the point that you've used it hundreds of times with your family playing cards where all the cards bend so easily that you feel you can bend them all the way over with very little force. But you also don't want a brand new deck like this one where the cards are really slippery and hard to use. Eventually the goal is for you to be able to use a brand new deck with this shuffle. But when you're starting off learning, you're going to want a slightly broken in deck because when you're using a used one, the cards are slippery. They can move around really easily and you can lose control. So for learning, I feel that it's best to use a slightly broken in deck, not too old, but not too new. Eventually, you'll be able to do this with any deck, but for now, use a slightly used one. All right, you did it. You got through. You can hopefully now somewhat shuffle a deck of cards. Now, of course, this isn't gonna work the first day. You're not gonna be able to do it perfectly the first day. No one can. This took me days. This took me a week. This took me 2 weeks to make it so I could do it comfortably and easily and make it look really good. Now, of course, the first day, the goal is that you can do it. Doesn't matter how it looks. You just want to get it down. You want to be able to riffle those cards down. You want to be able to do the bridge. If they fall, who cares? Do this on a bed. I should have said that earlier. Don't do this on standing up on the floor because you're going to be picking up a lot of cards. But just know, eventually you're going to get through this. You're going to be able to shuffle these cards. It's going to look really impressive. But anyways, drop a like if you haven't. Subscribe as well. Follow me on Instagram. See you guys next time.